FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Culturally in this country, even if you sort of step away to some extent from religion, culturally there is something that I wouldn't call a good versus evil, but there's definitely a black versus white, and I don't mean racially. There's sort of the Disneyization of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really, the fairy tales of Walt Disney and Disneyland always have to have good and always have to have evil. And it has to be clear. And that seems to have been a really fundamental part of American culture and, you know, the sort of revision of history, American history. I covered the Philippines, you know, in the fall of Marcos. And it was very frustrating because, first of all, it was great TV. And a lot of people there spoke English, so you didn't have to worry about translation. And it was this incredible drama, for real. I remember, it was really an astonishing moment. But particularly the journalists who came in, who were supposed to analyze this and provide context, you know, saw this evil, cruel, murdering dictator and this pious, wonderful, self-deprecating housewife, you know, widow of a great national hero. And of course, it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, there's still this tendency. And so the extent to which you kind of look at American culture, do you think that that's a stumbling block, that sort of cultural underpinning?
Yeah, I think there are two reasons for this, and you're absolutely right. This is a pervasive part of our national identity. I think there's two reasons for it. One, part of it has to do with the way this country was founded. I mean, from the very beginning, you know, the United States was described by our founders as the new Israel. You know, Washington was referred to as the Israel on the Potomac. There was this conception that the covenant of God had been rewritten with the founding of the United States. And so therefore, we have this divine destiny to sort of bring, you know, as the new chosen people, to bring God's message to the rest of the world. You see in the early writings of our founders this notion that the covenant had been renewed somehow in the American identity, which means that our wars are God's wars and that our mission is God's mission. So that sense of divine destiny is a deep aspect of our national character. But the second part of this, I think, is a little bit more complex, which is that as a nation of immigrants, we are not a country that can define our nationality according to ethnicity. You know, unlike in most of Europe, where ethnicity and nationality means the same thing, in the United States, they're completely different. You know, we are a nation that defines itself according to a set of ideals and principles and a national narrative. And so that makes it sometimes very hard for us to construct a firm collective identity. And what's the easiest way to do that? What's the easiest way to define oneself? Well,
have an enemy.
Exactly, in opposition to another.
Right.
Whether it's an internal other, so the Catholics, you know, in the 19th century, the Jews in the 20th century, the Muslims in the 21st century, or whether it's an external other, whether it's socialism or communism or now jihadism. It's the simplest way of saying, who are we? We're not them. We're not that. That's who we are. But you know, this kind of simplicity comes with, you know, some real dangers that you yourself sort of emphasize. It's a oversimplification of very complex socio-political conflicts, and particularly when you're engaged with another non-state entity, with another group that's identifying itself precisely in the same way, in opposition to another, there's a real strategic danger here that, you know, we're not fighting this conflict in a way that's beneficial to us, that in fact we're fighting it on their terms.